We're heading into the last month of summer, but the garden's not ready to be done. In fact, some things are in peak bloom at the moment and looking really beautiful. So let's go through and do the August garden tour.
You keep me wondering, is our love strong?
This area of the garden is looking so lush at the moment, and I just love it. All of the plants have really grown in and filled out, and I can see it from my window when I'm doing the dishes, and it just makes me so happy. These planters here have exploded with growth, and if you've been around my channel for a while, you already know that I love Gomphrena. And this year I used the Truffula Pink Gomphrena by Proven Winners, which is an annual in these back planters, and they have been a rock star annual. They are huge and pretty drought tolerant. They handle the heat and the sun like a champ. And I also did something new with my window boxes this year, where as the centerpiece I used some of this Gara, and I love the way it looks, nice and wispy, and it just kind of floats over the window box, and I just love it. And of course I have the licorice plant trailing in the front that has gotten huge. All you need is one of these plants and it fills out so much throughout the season. And some sun patience. This is the orchid sun patient. It's a compact variety. It gets nice and bushy and round, and I'm really happy with these planter combinations this year. But something that is really shining in the garden at the moment is some of my panicle hydrangeas that are starting to get their rosy pink color as we start to get cooler nights and head into the tail end of summer. Right here by the shed, I have a quickfire hydrangea that has been planted here for about 4 years. And this is a great hydrangea. It is so upright and sturdy. It has these red stems and these really large panicle blooms that are sort of open and airy. And you can see that it has taken on this rosy pink coloring, and it's just looking really beautiful at the moment. It has also gotten quite large, so this is one that needs some space and definitely makes an impact in the garden. I would say that this area here is a part sun location, and it seems to be really happy here. And right here in front of my quickfire hydrangea and beneath my Dr. Merrill magnolia, I have a drift of anemones. And these are the rubitissima, and they are looking beautiful. They have gotten quite large this year. This is probably their 3rd season in this area. And they do spread by runners, so they can get carried away if they're happy, but they're very easy to pull out and share with friends if you want to. And I just love them. I love how the stems just kind of come above the foliage and just move in the wind. I just think they're beautiful. And moving along on the other corner of this bed, well, I'll stop here real quick and just show you. This is a new annual by Proven Winners that I trialed this year, and I really liked the color because I feel like they echoed the window box sun patience of the orchid that I had in there. So I planted them here, and they are called the Petunia Vista Cool Jazz. And I planted 3 annuals, and they've really filled out in this space. This is also the first year that I tried petunias in the landscape, and they do really well as a bedding plant. But right here is the star of the August garden for me, and it is my hardy hibiscus. This is the Proven Winners Perfect Storm hardy hibiscus, and it has this beautiful two-toned like pink coloring. It has like a light pink and a darker pink swirl with this deep red throat. Now these to me have a very tropical vibe. I think they would look gorgeous planted by a patio or by a swimming pool, and I just love it here. When we come down our driveway, or if we're in our living room or kitchen, this really grabs your attention. It is beautiful, and it has gotten quite large, you can see. Now this year it seems to be a little bit shorter than it was last year, but in general this shrub here, well, it's a perennial that's as big as a shrub, is about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide, and it's really gorgeous. They are a little bit late to break dormancy. Here in my garden, they don't emerge from the soil until about mid to late May, and they also typically bloom a little bit later for me in the mid to end of August. Tons of buds. They just started to bloom. This bloomed for me, just started like what, a week ago? Not even. But look at all of these buds. It actually blooms right around the time of my cameraman and my lovely husband George's birthday. He actually just had a birthday yesterday, so if you want to wish George a happy birthday in the comments, we can share that with him. And let's head over and check out my Limelight hedge. Now I have to carefully walk around my beautiful planters. I love these so much. I feel like a fairy walking among my flowers. But here is my little lime hedge. And this hedge is also one of my favorites, and it really shines this month as well because it starts taking on this pink coloring. I just love how full the panicle blooms are. I love how upright it is. We have not had a ton of rain this year, so thankfully they're not really flopping. But in general, because it has matured some more, the stems are a lot stronger on them this year. So I am really enjoying this hedge. There are 3 planted here. Now this one here on the end was getting a little bit shaded by our Katsura Japanese maple. And if you are a regular of the channel, you might know that my husband George and I have a collection of maples, and he really loves his trees. So I had mentioned to George that this tree needed to be limbed up so that we would have more room to make light for this hydrangea. And his idea was that I should move my hydrangea, which I did not do, but thankfully he came around, and one day, without me even asking, he was out here limbing up this tree, which I was so thankful for, because then it was able to get some more light, and it has bloomed beautifully as well. And right here behind our hedge of little lime hydrangeas, we have a small patio that we actually did a makeover on last summer, and we created this cozy little space. And as the hydrangea hedge grows, it creates a living wall, which gives us a little more privacy in this area. We set up these corten steel planters, we put a bench back here, and I'm happy to report that we've actually been sitting on this bench a little bit more this year, which has been really nice. I have this little bistro set here, which I also have a terracotta pot growing a new annual for next year by Proven Winners. And I might be showing you a couple of new annuals because they sent me a handful of annuals that are new for 2026 to share with all of you. And this is one of them. It is the Whirlwind White Scaevola. And if I said that wrong, please let me know in the comments how to pronounce it. But it has been really happy in this terracotta pot. This is a part shade area, and it has grown really well this season. And I really like the way the simplicity of the white bloom with the terracotta pot looks here. And as we head down into our Japanese maple garden, there are a couple of things I'd like to share with you here. So specifically in this bed, I had thought about editing some plants earlier in the season. I had mentioned that the lungwort or pulmonaria that I have planted here had gotten quite large, and I was thinking that this fall I would be moving some things around. But I quite like the way that it has filled out and sort of created a ground cover. I am still planning on moving out these 2 carex in the front here, and I have a new place in the garden picked out for them. And this is a Cherryman Hinoki cypress, which grows really slowly and looks really lovely here. It's been happy so far. But my plan is to do something with that back corner there, add some color through foliage. And I did have some heucheras planted there, but I have this issue with heucheras in my garden that when I plant them, they look beautiful and full and lush. And then every season after, they get smaller and smaller until they virtually disappear. So I'm wondering if you have any suggestions for me on what you have found to be the best way to grow heuchera so that that doesn't happen. And recently I took off the baskets that were on my ferns because the bunnies had been chewing on them, but my Japanese painted ferns are looking really beautiful right now as well. They've put on quite a bit of growth. And as we head down the path of this Japanese maple garden, I want to share with you a new project that we just started working on. And here you can see is the beginnings of a new planting bed. And the catalyst for this bed was a visible well pipe, which is something that a lot of homeowners have if you have a well, and has been an eyesore in my backyard and garden for a little while. And I was hoping to find a way to disguise it. And I think we've come up with a really clever idea that we're going to be sharing in an upcoming video. But recently we were able to find some more of this stone that we use for edging in all of our beds. And we often get questions about it, and it's actually cobblestone, also known as Belgium block. And we really like the patina on this aged stone, so we usually scour Facebook Marketplace in search of some, and we recently found some, so that is what we're using to edge this bed. So we have been filming some footage for this project as we work on it. You can see there's a little bit of black spray paint because we already used a hose to kind of outline it. Now we're using the stone, and so more on this project coming soon. And right here by my patio, this is what I call my patio bed for obvious reasons, right? And I absolutely love this bed. You can see right now that my alliums are blooming. This is the Millennium variety, and it's looking beautiful. The pollinators absolutely love this flower. There are bees all over it all day long. You can see right now, there are a ton of them. I actually got stung this week, not on this plant, but I was deadheading some things and I was wearing gloves, thankfully, but I still got stung and it still hurt a little bit. Maybe not as much as if I wasn't wearing gloves. And my hedge of the firelight tidbits are looking beautiful, also picking up some of that pink color now as we're getting later into the season. Now these are looking gorgeous. I planted these here in 2023, so this is their third season, so 2 years, third season, and they're looking absolutely gorgeous. They've put on quite a bit of size and have really filled in that short amount of time. These are a panicle hydrangea. I had initially replaced a smooth or arborescens type hydrangea that I had here called the wee white, because shortly after it bloomed, the wee white would look like heads of roasted cauliflower. It just could not handle the sun in this area and would go brown. So I passed them along to a friend, and these were the replacements, the firelight tidbits, and they have done wonderfully. And you can see that I planted some annuals in this bed this year to kind of fill in the gaps between perennial blooms. And this is the illumination dahlia in this light yellow color. And what I love about it is the dark foliage. I think it provides a really nice contrast in this bed. And I have to be honest, using annuals mixed in with my perennials in my borders is going to be something I do every year going forward, because I have absolutely loved it. It really provides a lot of color. So right here, I have another group of those dahlias, the illumination dahlias. And in front of it, I had some Wedgwood pink angelonia. But it is taking a break right now because I did deadhead it. And this in front, I have yet another row, and this is the whiteout verbena. And it is a trailing verbena, and it is also in a little bit of a lull at the moment. So those had bloomed profusely throughout most of the summer. I did fertilize them recently, so they should start picking up some more blooms to finish out the season strong. And one of the very best annual salvias is right here. This is Rockin' Playin' the Blues salvia, and it is gorgeous. So I have plans on adding more of this to my beds next year. I love salvia in general, and because perennial salvias typically just bloom for a short period of time in the spring, I think having an annual salvia mixed in is a great option. And I have some delphiniums that are going on their second flush of blooms. So here are some delphiniums that I grew from seed, and look how beautiful this is. This is the white bee mix, and it is the sky blue, and it is gorgeous. And of course, I have this drift of an annual, which is the Signorita Rosalita Cleome. The cone flowers have started to dry up now and are losing some of their color, but the cones are still really beautiful and providing some structure in the garden. So I'm gonna let those go for a bit longer. I eventually will deadhead quite a bit of them, but I still leave some up for the birds to snack on the seeds. The goldfinches specifically really love them. I catch goldfinches over here all the time. They like to perch on the new fountain, and while they're here, I'm pretty sure that they're pecking at the heads on these cone flowers as well, which is a lot of fun. And you can see this really tall plant here. This is the Joe Pye weed. It's also a pollinator magnet. The bees go back and forth between the Joe Pye weed and the allium. And this is also a really pretty plant with these red stems. It's great for the middle of the border like this if you have a two-sided bed, or even the very back of a border because it is quite tall, but really great for late season color. There are a couple more things I wanted to show you in the front border of this bed that I kind of breezed by and just realized. One of them is that I also added some of this campfire marshmallow bidens, which is a new to me annual this year. And I have a group here, one there and one there. And I really love the way that it looks like a dainty little Cosmo. This is the name of it. They're really filling out now and providing a little pop of white in the front of the bed. And I had started some of this Dusty Miller New Look from seed. And when I had some extras after I filled out my pots, I wasn't sure what to do with it. So they stood in their containers a bit longer than they should have. which is why they're still a little small, but they're putting on some size now. And I actually really love this drift of this silvery foliage in the front of this bed. So I have made a note to make sure that I grow some Dusty Miller for the landscape next year as well. So even if you want to add some annuals to your beds, some like Dusty Miller, you can start from seed really easily, and they really offer a really nice pop of color. And right here we have our driveway bed, which we did in a video a couple of seasons back now in the fall, and things are really filling in. Now this also needs some editing. I actually have 3 blank spots back here that we had to pull some things out of because they ended up dying. This bed is very moist. It holds a lot of moisture because this is where all the water kind of runs down our property. And so I need some evergreens that can withstand some moisture, and I will have to plant them really high. I had a sky pencil holly on either end that ended up dying. I had a golden hemlock in the center here that also didn't make it. And so now here we are. But look at this shrub right here in the center and how large they have gotten. There are 2 planted here, and these are the, let me see if I can remember the name, it's a mouthful. This is the Iceberg Alley Sage Leaf Willow. And they are beautiful. They really do look like sage if you look at the leaves. They have this steely blue coloring. And in the spring, when they first start to break dormancy, they have these catkins on them that look very much like pussy willow, and I really love them. And willows do really well in moist soil, hence the reason these have done very well in this area. And in the front, you can see that I have a couple more plants planted. I added 2 more of the firelight tidbits because I wanted to do that rhythm and repetition in my landscape where when you come down the driveway, you see 2 of these hydrangeas, and then as you get down there at the end of the driveway, you see the patio bed, which has a whole drift of these firelight tidbits. So I'm trying to keep the rhythm continual as you move through the garden with these pops of the panicle hydrangeas. And in the center this spring, I added another conifer that is a Cryptomeria globosanana. I really like the way it grows in a rounded shape, and it should get about 3 by 3 over time. And you can see that on either end, I have a grouping of one of my very favorite ornamental grasses. This is the Carl Forester, Calamagratis Carl Forester reed grass. I love it. I think it is the perfect landscape ornamental grass. It is very compact at about 4 feet in height and only about 2.5 feet in diameter. I started with 3 plants. I was able to divide them, and now I have a group of 3 here and a group of 3 there. And as the end of the summer comes, it gets these plumes, which are the blooms on ornamental grasses that look like wheat, and I really like the way they look. And coming up the driveway, this is a project that we did in the beginning of the season. If you've been around since then, it was called Color with Conifers, where we added some Isley conifers behind these entrance walls to add some color all year round. Living here in the Northeast, our perennials will go dormant in the winter, so it's really important to me to add structure in the garden with evergreens that will look beautiful all year. And if you want more information about the plants that I used in this project, I will go ahead and link that video below. But let's take a look at the zinnias that I grow in front of the walls. Now, I started growing this variety of zinnia up here last season, and I love them so much that they have become my staple perennial for these low walls because they are a compact, more dwarf version of a zinnia. These are the Zahara Double Raspberry Ripple Zinnia, and they are gorgeous. They have this sort of striping effect, so when they first emerge, they're a bright pink, and then as they age, they sort of take on a striped pink and white look before fading to almost white. And they just go non-stop all season long. They are drought tolerant. I have only watered these maybe twice when I first planted them, and I've fertilized and deadheaded them 1 time this whole season, just this week. So they have been on their own since. The deer and rabbit leave them alone. So as far as I'm concerned, they are a winner for a low maintenance annual. I repeated these zinnias on both sides, so I have a drift on either side, and you can see they look really pretty. And I also planted some conifers on this side. Now, they're not the same. I did plant a different grouping on either side. There is only one that repeated, and that is that low growing ground cover type conifer. But again, I will link the video below for you to check out if you're interested in compact dwarf variety Islay conifers. And here in the front yard, we have a couple of borders along the front that I'd like to show you. You can see that our grass looks pretty dry at this point in the season. It was gorgeous in the spring, but we've had some issues with our irrigation, and so we haven't been able to use it. And the grass has gotten pretty dry because we've also had no rain, which hasn't been ideal. But in this border, things are starting to look a little tired over here. We do have some more of these alliums that are starting to bloom. Now this is the lavender bubbles, and it blooms shortly after the millennium. So if you really like these alliums, find different varieties that bloom at different times so that you can extend the amount of time that you have them blooming in your garden. I also have some annuals that I started from seed here, and these are the Blue Horizon Ageratum. This is about the third season that I've been growing them, third or fourth. I really love them. They have a really vibrant light purple color, and they're looking gorgeous. This season, I also added some verbena in the front layer of this bed, and it is the pink cashmere, and it's also looking really pretty. I like the way that the blue ageratum looks with the light pink of the verbena. And I also have some anemones that are going to start blooming soon. These are the Honorine Joubert, and you can see that they are budded. And in the next couple of weeks, they will start to crack open as we head into September. So if you are looking for some late season blooms, again, anemones. I have the ones under the tree there that we showed you earlier that are blooming, the Robotissima. And then next I have the Honorine Joubert. And then I have yet one more variety in my patio bed that will bloom after that. And I have another drift of the Lavender Bubbles allium right here. Now these should be in full bloom in another week. You can see that they're almost all opened. And coming up my main walkway bed, I have a Carly Rose ornamental grass, a hinoki, and a gold mop cypress that we've limbed up into a small topiary tree. But what I really want to talk about is how my gomphrena is so small this year. I grow gomphrena from seed every year. This is the atomic purple gomphrena, and I think what happened was that I planted these Proven Winners Suncredible sunflowers. And while they look absolutely beautiful, they are a very vigorous grower. And so when I planted these, they shaded my gomphrena a little bit, and so they didn't get as much sun as they needed to really start growing. And I have fertilized them recently, and I think that they will pick up before the end of the season, but this might just be a small year for my gomphrena because the sunflowers are taking over the show. And I really do love the way these sunny sunflowers look. I think they're really cheerful, and you can see how full of flowers they are. The bees also really love them. So I think they look really pretty, and it's okay if the gomphrena didn't do as well this year. I'm still hopeful though that they will pick up a little bit more before it's all over at the end of October. This phlox has also been blooming for a really long time. It just popped up here in this bed this year. I don't know where it came from. I used to have a similar looking phlox that was a bit more orange in this bed, and I moved it because it didn't match my knockout roses. And I have it now in my pollinator bed in the backyard, and all of a sudden this pink one that pretty much matches my roses identically popped up here. So I don't know if the birds left me this present, but I really love it, and I'm actually going to divide it this fall and leave a clump here and add one a little bit down in the bed, because when my roses take a little bit of a lull after their first initial flush in June, the phlox bloomed all of July and right now in August. So really long time it's been blooming, and I love it. My hibiscus, this is the Luna White hibiscus, has pretty much just finished blooming. This side still has a couple of blooms on it. The other side, I have another one. It's all done. Now this one blooms before my summerific hardy hibiscus. So this one starts blooming at the end of July, beginning of August, and by mid to end of August, my backyard hibiscus will bloom. This is a tiny quickfire. Now, I showed you the quickfire in the backyard, and it is huge and beautiful. This is a more compact variety. It should only get about 2.5 to 3 feet tall and wide. So it should really fill out this space in the next couple of years. But look how beautiful this deep rose color is. It's gorgeous. I also have a delphinium here that got a little bit knocked over with the wind today, but this is a new variety of delphinium for next year, Proven Winners 2026 release, and I actually have the tag. Let me show you that. It is the Violets Are Blue delphinium. It likes full sun, part sun, and it gets to be 30 to 36 inches in height. So it is a great perennial to use in, say, the middle of a border or even the second row of a border. So I planted it here in the spring when I received a small 4-inch sample size, and it has done really well. It was actually in bloom when I received it, and it is now giving me a second flush of blooms, which is really great. I actually received about 8 quart-size perennials that are new releases for 2026 that I can share with you in an upcoming video, but that was one of them, and it's doing pretty well so far. About a month ago, I made a video called Cutting Them, where I cut back all of my petunias to give them a rejuvenation prune. Basically, throughout the middle of the season, you want to cut back your petunias by a third or a half, whichever you're comfortable with, to get them to bush out and look beautiful again. Because as the season goes on, they tend to get a little bit leggy and straggly. And so to get them nice and bushy and full like this, you give them a haircut. And look how well they have bounced back. They're looking beautiful. And this is something that you can do with any kind of petunia. I also did it on these super bells, and you can see that they're starting to get all budded up again and looking really healthy and pretty. And even the verbena that's in the planter, I did that with. This is the violet ice, which, by the way, I absolutely love and plan on using again next year. It has been the most vigorous verbena that I've grown this year. Between the whiteout, the pink cashmere, this one has been my favorite. I have some more angelonia here that I also cut back, and you can see that it's starting to get a bunch of buds. This is a really great annual as well. It is called Summer Snapdragon or Angelonia, and that is the blue variety. But these did not miss a beat. These containers look absolutely beautiful. I love this combination. I'm even thinking about doing these in my driveway next year because I like to try something different on the front porch each year, but I love the combo so much that I want to use it somewhere. So either in the back patio or the driveway, but I will definitely be repeating this combo. You can see that using purple fountain grass in an annual container is wonderful because as we get into the later part of summer, it has sent up all of its plumes, and that's going to transition beautifully into fall. And as we move into this bed here, you can see that this Luna hibiscus is all done. This side gets a little bit more sun than the other side, so it started to bloom first. So it is done blooming now, but my Rudbeckia still looks gorgeous. It's been blooming since July, so a really long time that perennial blooms. I also have another tiny quickfire on this side to mimic the other side. I usually like to repeat things on both sides of the porch. Also has its rosy color and looking really pretty. And my Sahara Rudbeckia, I went through and I deadheaded it recently, and it's still looking great. Now, I grew this for the first time last year thinking it was an annual, and I actually had some plants that came back this year. We did have a mild winter, so that's probably partly the reason for that, but I did grow some extras from seed again this year because I loved it so much. I wanted to make sure that I had it again. My Blue Fortune Agastache is still blooming, as is my phlox. The coneflowers up front here are also pretty tired now and starting to fade. But just when those perennials start to get tired, I have a couple of other things looking really pretty, specifically late season bloomers like some aster. I also have some sedums that are going to be starting to bloom pretty soon. Now, I am trying to find some more of that aster. It's called the Ficardi Munch, and it's a great variety. It's been blooming for a long time, since about July, and you can see that there are still tons of buds on it. It has a really pretty light purple color. But the sedum that I have in the front here is called Neon, and my neighbor actually shared it with me. It started off as one plant, and I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the front of this border. I have divided it. Sedum is super easy to divide. If you are moving it and a stem falls off or breaks, you just shove it in the soil. It will root and give you a new plant, and it just provides a really long season of interest. Even when it starts to break dormancy in the spring, you get this little mounded cluster of these shiny and large succulent leaves, and it looks really pretty. And then as the summer goes on, it sends up its bloom stalks before it starts to color up in the fall. And some grasses. So these are some low growing ornamental grasses. This variety is actually called Little Bunny. And you can see it has all of its blooms, which are these plumes, and this is what they call a fountain grass, which means it kind of has this fountain appearance, and it's great for the front of the border because it's nice and compact. Now, this was one that, again, I bought one plant I divided it in two, and I have a grouping on either side of my candy corn spirea. And candy corn spirea, what an appropriate name for a plant that will carry us all the way through the fall. You can see the new growth has these red tips, and it has this chartreuse yellow coloring. It blooms in June with clusters of pink blooms, and it is one of my favorite spireas. And I repeated this grouping of Rudbeckia on this side as well, and the Blue Fortune Agastache, or Agastache is what I say, and I really like the way it looks. Well, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us on this beautiful evening for the August garden tour. Thank you for spending your time with us, and I'll catch you in the next one.